The colony ship drifted through the dark void of space like a broken bird. Its hull was torn open in 3 places, and small fires still burned in the cargo bay. Inside the ruined vessel, everything was silent, except for the soft beeping of one small machine. Captain Theron of the Draconi Empire stood in what remained of the human ship's nursery. His scales were deep purple, and his wings were folded tight against his back as he moved through the wreckage. The emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. He had seen many terrible things in his long life, but this struck him differently. Humans were new to this part of space, and their ships were fragile compared to Draconi vessels. "Commander, we found something," a young soldier called from across the room. Her name was Kessa, and her silver scales gleamed even in the dim light. She was crouched beside a white pod that hummed with power. Theron walked over and looked down. Inside the cryopod was a tiny human infant, no more than 6 months old. The baby was sleeping, completely unaware that everyone else on the ship was dead. A small screen on the pod displayed the child's vital signs. Everything was stable. "He is the only survivor," Kessa said quietly. Her voice held something the Draconi rarely showed to other species: genuine sadness. The pod systems protected him when the attack happened. Theron read the information panel. The infant's name was Jake. No family name was listed, which probably meant his parents had died in the attack. The Draconi captain stood silent for a long moment, his tail moving slowly behind him. His duty was to report this to Queen Vera. She would decide what to do with the child. 3 days later, representatives from 7 different species gathered in the grand hall of Queen Vera's palace. The Draconi called their world Skytier, and their palace was built on top of the tallest mountain. The walls were open to the air, and the wind howled constantly through the massive chamber. Queen Vera sat on her throne, which was carved from a single piece of black stone. She was enormous, even by Draconi standards, with scales that shimmered between gold and red. Her wings could span the width of the hall when fully extended. She had ruled for over 200 years, and her wisdom was known across dozens of star systems. The coalition leader, a tall alien with blue skin named Doran, stepped forward. He carried the cryopod carefully in his forearms. "Great Queen," Doran said, bowing low, "we bring you a gift and a request. This human child is the sole survivor of the colony ship Dawn's Promise. Pirates attacked the vessel 3 weeks ago. By the time our patrol found it, everyone was dead except this infant." Vera leaned forward, her golden eyes fixed on the sleeping baby. "Why bring him to me? The humans have colonies not far from here." "We considered that, Your Majesty," another representative said. This one was from a species called the Ventari, but the nearest human settlement is 6 months away, and we do not have the resources to care for such a young child during the journey. The pirates who attacked the ship are still hunting in this region. We fear they might target us if we carry a human survivor." Doran continued, "The Draconi are known throughout the galaxy for your honor and your strength. No pirate would dare attack your ships. We thought perhaps you could keep the child safe until proper arrangements can be made." Theron, standing beside the throne, spoke up. "My queen, we should send a message to the human authorities. They will want to know about this. The child should be with his own kind." Vera did not respond immediately. She stood from her throne and walked down the steps. Her claws clicked on the stone floor. When she reached Doran, she gestured for him to open the pod. The coalition leader hesitated but obeyed. The pod opened with a soft hiss. Cool air escaped, and the baby stirred. His eyes opened slowly, and he looked up at the massive dragon-like creature looming over him. For a moment, everyone in the hall held their breath. Draconi infants usually cried when they saw strangers, especially ones as imposing as Vera, but Jake did not cry. His small hand reached up toward Vera's face. The queen lowered her head, bringing her snout close to the infant. Jake's tiny fingers touched her scales, and he made a soft cooing sound. Then he smiled. Something changed in Vera's expression. The other aliens could not read Draconi faces well, but Theron knew his queen. He saw the decision form in her eyes before she spoke. "This child will stay here," Vera said firmly. "I will raise him as my own." The hall erupted in whispers. Several of Vera's own advisors stepped forward in protest. "Your Majesty, you cannot be serious," one of them said. His name was Rin, and he was the oldest member of the council. "A human child has no place among the Draconi. He cannot fly. He cannot hunt. He will always be weak compared to our younglings." Vera turned to face her council, and her voice became sharp. "You speak of weakness, Rin, but I see something different. This child survived when hundreds of adult humans did not. His ship was destroyed, yet he lived. The universe brought him to my doorstep, and I will not turn away a survivor." "But the humans will want him back," Theron argued gently. "They will send ships, make demands. Then let them come," Vera said. "They can see their child raised with honor, taught the ways of warriors, given every advantage we can provide. If they wish to take him when he is old enough to choose, so be it. But until then, he is under my protection." She picked up Jake from the cryopod. The infant looked impossibly small in her large claws, but she held him with surprising gentleness. Jake grabbed one of her fingers and held on tight. "What will you call him?" Kessa asked from the back of the hall. Vera looked at the name displayed on the pod. The humans named him Jake. It is a good name. Strong and simple. He will keep it. The coalition representatives looked at each other uncertainly. Doran finally spoke. "Your Majesty, we are grateful. We will inform the human authorities of your decision." "Do so," Vera said. "And tell them this. Jake will be raised as a prince of the Draconi Empire. He will learn our ways, our language, our traditions. When he is grown, he may choose his own path. But while he is young, he is mine to protect and teach." That night, after all the visitors had left, Vera stood on the highest balcony of her palace. Jake was wrapped in warm cloth, sleeping against her chest. The stars filled the sky above, countless and bright. "You are far from your home, little one," she said softly. "But you will never be without family. I will teach you to be strong. I will teach you to be brave. And somehow, I will teach you to fly." The wind carried her words away into the darkness. Below, the lights of the Draconi city spread out like a sea of stars. Above, the real stars watched in silence as a dragon. Queen made a promise to a human child. Jake stirred in his sleep and gripped tighter to Vera's scales. She looked down at him and saw the future. This small, wingless creature would change everything. She did not know how yet, but she was certain of it. The Draconi believed that the sky chose its champions. As Vera watched the stars wheel overhead, she wondered if perhaps the sky had sent her this gift for a reason that would only become clear in time. 12 years had passed since Queen Vera first held Jake in her arms. The human boy stood on the edge of the training platform, watching the young Draconi soar through the morning sky. Their wings caught the sunlight as they dove and climbed, practicing the aerial maneuvers that came naturally to them. Jake was nearly 13 now, tall for a human child, but still small compared to the Draconi younglings he trained with. His dark hair was cut short, and his skin had grown tan from years under Skytier's bright sun. He wore the training clothes of a Draconi student, simple pants and a shirt that allowed for easy movement. What he did not have were wings. "Stop staring and start running," Commander Rin barked from behind him. The old Draconi flight master had never warmed to Jake's presence, but he followed Queen Vera's orders. "If you cannot fly, you must be faster on the ground." 20 laps around the platform. Jake started running without complaint. He had learned long ago that arguing with Rin only made things worse. As he ran, he watched the other students practice. Kessa was among them, her silver scales flashing as she executed a perfect barrel roll. She was only a year older than Jake, but she already flew better than students twice her age. When Jake finished his laps, sweat dripping down his face, Rin was waiting with the day's lesson plan. But before the commander could speak, a group of young Draconi landed on the platform. Their leader was a male named Zorak, nephew to Queen Vera herself. His scales were deep red, and his eyes held nothing but contempt when he looked at Jake. "Still running in circles, human?" Zorak said with a laugh. "While we touch the clouds, you crawl on stone like a worm." The other younglings laughed. Jake clenched his fists but said nothing. He had endured worse insults over the years. "Leave him alone, Zorak," Kessa said, landing beside Jake. "He trains harder than any of you." "Training for what?" Zorak shot back. "He will never fly. The Queen wastes time on him when she should be preparing real Draconi for leadership." "Enough," Rin commanded. His voice carried authority that even Zorak respected. "All of you, back to your drills. Jake, come with me." Jake followed Rin to a private area of the training grounds. There, sitting on a metal stand, was something Jake had never seen before. It looked like armor, but lighter, with long panels that extended from the back like folded wings. "Queen Vera commissioned this for you," Rin said quietly. "The finest engineers in the Empire worked on it for 2 years. It is called a flight suit." Jake's eyes went wide. He approached the suit slowly, almost afraid to touch it. The surface was smooth and covered in small scales made of metal. The wing panels were thin but strong, designed to catch the wind just like Draconi wings. "How does it work?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Neural interface," Rin explained. "Small implants were placed in your spine when you were younger. You were too young to remember. The suit connects to these implants. You think about moving, and it moves. In theory. Rin's expression was difficult to read. "No one has ever tried this before. You will be the first. Put it on." With Rin's help, Jake strapped into the flight suit. It fit perfectly, molding to his body. The moment the final connection clicked into place, Jake felt something strange. The wings on his back suddenly felt like part of him, as natural as his own arms and legs. "Try moving them," Rin instructed. Jake thought about lifting the wings. They rose smoothly. He thought about folding them. They folded. A smile spread across his face, the first genuine smile Rin had ever seen from the boy. "Do not get too excited," Rin warned. "Moving them while standing is easy. Flying is different. Come." They went to the launching platform, where students began their first flights. It was a tall tower that extended out from the mountain. Below was nothing but open air and a very long fall. "The suit has safety features," Rin said. "If you fall, emergency thrusters will catch you. But they only work once per day, so do not rely on them." Jake looked out at the sky. His heart pounded in his chest. This was what he had dreamed about for years. The chance to fly, to truly fly, like the family that had raised him. "Remember your training," Rin said. "Spread your wings, feel the wind, and jump." Jake spread the metal wings. They caught the morning breeze, and he felt the lift they generated. He took a deep breath, thought of Vera and all the faith she had placed in him, and jumped. For 3 glorious seconds, Jake flew. The wind rushed past his face, and the ground fell away below him. He felt weightless and free. Then everything went wrong. The wings did not respond the way he expected. He tried to angle them to catch more air, but they folded instead. He spun sideways, lost control, and began to plummet. The emergency thrusters fired, slowing his fall, but the landing was still hard. He hit the safety net stretched across the lower platform and bounced twice before coming to a stop. Above, he could hear Zorak and the other students laughing. The sound echoed off the mountain walls. Jake tried again the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Each time ended the same way: a brief moment of flight followed by a crash. The other students whispered that he was cursed, that humans were never meant to touch the sky. Only Kessa stood by him. After each crash, she would help him up and tell him to try again. "You are thinking too much," she said one evening as they sat together watching the sunset. "Draconi do not think about flying. We just fly. It is instinct." "I do not have instinct," Jake said bitterly. "I have machines and implants and wishes." "Then use what you have," Kessa replied. "You are human. Humans build things, figure things out. Stop trying to fly like a Draconi. Fly like a human." Her words stayed with Jake that night. He went to the library and studied everything he could find about flight: wind patterns, air pressure, wing angles, velocity calculations. He filled notebooks with diagrams and equations. The Draconi flew by instinct, but humans learned by understanding. The next morning, Jake approached the launching platform differently. He did not just jump and hope. He watched the wind, calculated the angle he needed, and planned every move before he made it. When he spread his wings this time, he knew exactly how to position them. He jumped. The wings caught the air perfectly. Instead of fighting the wind, Jake worked with it. He angled left to catch an updraft, then right to avoid a downdraft. His human mind calculated what his body should do, and the neural implants translated thought into action. He was flying. Really flying. Jake climbed higher, his heart soaring with his body. Below, the training platform grew smaller. Around him, the sky opened up in every direction. He could see the Draconi city spread across the mountain, the forest beyond, and the distant ocean that caught the morning light. For the first time in his life, Jake understood why the Draconi loved their sky so much. It was not just freedom. It was belonging to something greater than yourself. When he finally landed back on the platform, Rin was waiting. The old commander's expression had not changed, but something in his eyes was different. "Acceptable," Rin said gruffly. "Tomorrow, we begin real training." Jake could not stop smiling. That night, he found Vera on her private balcony, the place where she often went to think. "I flew today," he told her simply. Vera looked down at him, her golden eyes warm. "I know, I was watching. Zorak says I will never be a real sky warrior. He says humans do not belong in the air." "Zorak is young and foolish," Vera said. "He sees only what is in front of him. I see something greater." "Do you know why I chose to raise you, Jake?" "No, because humans possess something we Draconi sometimes lack: the refusal to accept limits. We fly because we are born to fly. You fly because you chose to fly. That makes your flight more precious." She placed one large claw gently on his shoulder. "Never forget, little one. The sky does not care what wings you use to reach it. It only cares that you have the courage to try." 6 years of intense training had transformed Jake from a struggling student into one of the most skilled pilots in the Draconi Empire. At 18, he stood before the Council of Wings, requesting permission to enter the sky trials. The council chamber was filled with the Empire's greatest warriors. They sat in a circle around Jake, their scales gleaming in the light from the open ceiling. Commander Rin sat among them now, retired from teaching but still influential. Queen Vera observed from her throne, saying nothing but watching everything. "This is absurd," Council Member Theron declared. He was the same Draconi who had found Jake as an infant, but the years had not softened his doubts. "The sky trials have been held for 1,000 years. Never has a wingless creature competed. It is tradition." "Tradition is not law," Jake replied calmly. He had learned to speak the Draconi language perfectly, with none of the human accent he once had. The trials test courage, skill, and honor. I have trained for this my entire life. Another council member spoke up, her voice sharp. You fly with machines, human. That is not the same as true flight. The trials do not specify how one must fly. Kessa interjected from where she stood beside Jake. She wore the uniform of a wing commander now, having earned the rank through numerous successful missions. Only that one must fly well. Jake has proven his skill countless times. The debate continued for hours. Some council members supported Jake, having seen his abilities firsthand. Others refused, seeing his entry as an insult to Draconi heritage. Finally, Queen Vera rose from her throne. The chamber fell silent immediately. The purpose of the Sky Trials, she said slowly, is to identify the strongest warriors in our empire. Those who can protect our people and lead our forces. Jake has spent 18 years training alongside our finest students. He deserves the chance to prove himself. I allow it. Her word was final. The trials would begin in 3 days. The Sky Trials took place over the course of 1 week. Competitors came from every corner of the empire, all seeking the title of Sky Warrior. Only 10 would earn the honor each year. The first event was precision flying. Competitors had to navigate through a series of rings suspended in the air at different heights and angles. Points were awarded for speed and accuracy. Jake watched as the Draconi competitors soared through the course with natural grace. When his turn came, he approached it differently. Instead of relying on instinct, he calculated angles and velocities. His human mind mapped the course like a mathematical problem. He was not the fastest, but he hit every ring perfectly, earning high marks from the judges. The second event was endurance racing. Competitors had to fly a circuit around the mountain 3 times without landing. It was designed to exhaust even the strongest flyers. Jake struggled here. His flight suit required more energy than natural wings, and by the 3rd lap, his muscles burned with fatigue. He finished in the middle of the pack, which was enough to keep him in the competition, but not enough to impress his critics. He is barely keeping up, Zorak said loudly that evening in the communal dining hall. The prince had also entered the trials and was currently ranked 3rd overall. When the real combat begins, his weaknesses will show. Jake ignored him. He spent the night reviewing recordings of the day's events, looking for ways to improve. Kessa sat with him, pointing out small details he might have missed. Zorak is planning something, she warned. I know my cousin. He sees you as a threat to his pride. Let him plan, Jake said tiredly. I can only control what I do. The 3rd event was aerial combat. Competitors were paired off and fought in the sky using training weapons that marked hits with paint. Jake won his first 2 matches by using unpredictable movements. Draconi fighters were trained in traditional maneuvers, but Jake created his own style, mixing human creativity with Draconi techniques. In the semifinals, he faced Zorak. The crowd gathered to watch, filling the viewing platforms around the combat arena. This was the match everyone had been waiting for. The human raised by the Dragon Queen against the Queen's own nephew. They launched from opposite platforms. Zorak came at Jake aggressively, using his natural speed advantage. Jake dodged and countered, keeping distance and watching for patterns. The fight lasted longer than any other that day. Neither could land a decisive hit. Then, in the middle of a tight turn, Jake felt something wrong. His left wing panel stuttered. The neural connection flickered. He started to lose altitude. Zorak saw the opening and struck hard. 3 hits in quick succession. Jake's suit registered them all. The match was over. As Jake landed, he immediately checked his suit. What he found made his blood run cold. Someone had tampered with the power coupling on his left wing. The damage was subtle, designed to look like equipment failure. But Jake had built and rebuilt this suit enough times to recognize sabotage. He said nothing. He had no proof of who did it, and accusations without evidence would only make him look weak. Instead, that night, he took his suit apart completely. He worked through the darkness, checking every connection, every circuit, every joint. By morning, he had not only repaired the damage, but improved several systems based on what he had learned during the trials. The final event was a free-flight combat tournament. All remaining competitors fought simultaneously in the sky. The last 5 still flying would earn the title of Sky Warrior. 20 competitors launched at dawn. The sky filled with flashing wings and combat maneuvers. Jake stayed defensive at first, watching and learning. He saw how different fighters moved, what mistakes they made, what patterns they followed. One by one, competitors were eliminated. Jake took down 3 opponents by predicting their moves before they made them. His human ability to recognize patterns gave him an edge that the Draconi fighters did not expect. Soon, only 8 remained. Then 6. The combat grew fiercer as the strongest fighters revealed their true skills. Zorak came at Jake again, clearly determined to eliminate him. This time, Jake's suit worked perfectly. More than that, the improvements he had made gave him better response time. He dodged Zorak's first strike, countered the second, and on the third exchange, he did something no Draconi would ever think to do. He stopped flying. Jake folded his wings and dropped like a stone. Zorak's strike passed overhead, the prince's momentum carrying him too far to adjust. Jake reopened his wings below him, caught an updraft, and rose behind Zorak. Before the prince could turn, Jake landed 3 clean hits on his back. Zorak was eliminated. The crowd roared. Some cheered, others protested, but everyone was talking about the move. Draconi instincts said to stay in the air. Human logic said that sometimes the best way up was down. 2 more fighters fell to Jake's unconventional tactics. When the final horn sounded, 5 competitors remained in the sky. Jake was one of them. That evening, in a ceremony older than human spaceflight, Queen Vera presented the 5 new Sky Warriors with their emblems. When she placed the silver pin on Jake's chest, she spoke loud enough for the entire crowd to hear. This human came to us as an infant with no wings and no future. He could have accepted his limits. Instead, he created his own sky. Let his achievement remind us all that strength comes not from what we are born with, but from what we refuse to let stop us. Jake bowed deeply to his queen, to his mother in all the ways that mattered. When he straightened, he saw Kessa in the crowd, tears of pride streaming down her face. He saw Rin nodding with approval. He even saw some of his former doubters looking at him with something like respect. Zorak was nowhere to be seen. But later that night, a servant brought Jake a message written in the Draconi style. It was unsigned, but Jake knew who sent it. You fly well, human, but flying and ruling are different. The Empire will never accept you as one of us. Jake burned the message. Zorak was wrong. The Empire had already accepted him. He had just proven it in the sky for everyone to see. 3 years after earning his Sky Warrior title, Jake commanded his own squadron. He was 21 now, still young by Draconi standards, but his tactical mind had proven valuable in several border conflicts. The Empire had learned that the human way of analyzing battles brought fresh perspectives to ancient problems. Everything changed on a cold morning when the first reports came in. Jake was in the command center with Kessa when the emergency signals arrived. 3 outer colonies had gone silent within the same hour. When scout ships went to investigate, they found the settlements intact but empty. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just abandoned cities and ships that had fallen from the sky. Send a full reconnaissance wing, Jake ordered. Whatever happened there, we need to understand it before it spreads. The reconnaissance wing never returned. Within 2 days, the enemy revealed itself. They called themselves the Krill, and they were like nothing the Draconi had fought before. The Krill did not destroy cities or kill populations. Instead, they infected technology with some kind of biological weapon. Ships stopped working. Neural implants shut down. Anything that relied on advanced systems simply died. For the Draconi, this was catastrophic. Their entire civilization was built on the integration of neural technology with natural flight. Every warrior, every pilot, every ship used neural interfaces to enhance their abilities. When the Krill attacked the military staging grounds above Skytier, hundreds of Draconi warriors fell from the sky as their flight systems failed. Jake watched in horror from his command post as his people plummeted to the ground. The emergency systems tried to activate, but the Krill infection spread too fast. Some Draconi managed to save themselves with raw wing power alone, but many did not. "My suit still works," Jake said suddenly, checking his systems. "The Krill infection targets neural interfaces specifically. My suit uses a different human-designed connection protocol." Kessa was struggling to stay airborne. Her natural wings worked, but the neural enhancements that gave Draconi warriors their superior speed and maneuverability were offline. She looked exhausted from the effort of flying without them. "Then you might be the only one who can fight them," she said, landing heavily on the command platform. "But one pilot cannot stop an invasion fleet." Queen Vera entered the command center, surrounded by guards. For the first time Jake could remember, she looked old. The weight of seeing her warriors fall had aged her in a matter of hours. "How many can still fly?" she asked. "Without neural enhancements, maybe half our forces," Kessa reported. "But they are slow and tire quickly. The Krill ships are faster and heavily armed." "Then we are defeated," one of the council members said quietly. "Without our technology, we cannot defend the homeworld." "No," Jake said firmly. Everyone turned to look at him. "We are not defeated. We need to think differently." Before he could explain further, new signals appeared on the tactical display. A fleet was entering Draconi space. For a terrible moment, everyone thought it was more Krill ships. Then the identification codes came through. They were human. Admiral Katie Morgan commanded the human fleet from the carrier vessel Horizon. She had been on a diplomatic mission to nearby systems when she heard about the Krill attacks. The Admiral was a veteran of humanity's own conflicts. A woman with gray hair and sharp eyes who had spent 40 years in space. When her face appeared on the communication screen, she looked directly at Jake. "Is there a human sky commander named Jake in the Draconi military?" she asked. "I am Jake," he replied, surprised. "I knew your parents," Katie said softly. "Your father was my navigation officer on the Dawn's Promise. Your mother was the ship's doctor. They would be proud of what you have become." For a moment, Jake could not speak. His whole life, he had wondered about his birth parents. Now, in the middle of a war, he was learning about them for the first time. "Thank you, Admiral," he finally said. "But we have more immediate problems." Katie nodded. "We saw what the Krill did to your outer colonies. Our ships have different technology than yours. We might be able to help." A plan began to form in Jake's mind. The Draconi had superior natural abilities. The humans had technology the Krill could not easily infect. If they could combine both strengths, they might have a chance. "Queen Vera," Jake said, turning to his adoptive mother, "I request permission to form a joint strike force. Draconi warriors equipped with human-designed mechanical wings instead of neural-enhanced flight." The council erupted in protest. Mechanical wings were considered inferior, used only by those who could not fly naturally. For proud Draconi warriors to wear them would be seen as shameful. Vera silenced them with a gesture. "Explain." "The Krill target our neural systems because they are our strength," Jake said, speaking quickly. But they are also our weakness now. Human mechanical systems do not integrate with biology the same way. They are harder to infect. If we fit volunteers with mechanical wings similar to my suit, they can fly again. It will not be the same, Commander Rin objected. Mechanical wings are clumsy compared to neural enhancement. You are right, Jake agreed. But clumsy flight is better than no flight at all. And Draconi warriors have natural abilities that humans do not. Their strength, their reflexes, their combat training. Give them any way to fly, and they will be formidable. Vera looked at the tactical display, showing krill ships advancing on the homeworld. She looked at her grounded warriors, frustrated and helpless. Then she looked at Jake, the human infant she had raised, who now stood ready to save her people with human ingenuity and draconi courage combined. Do it, she commanded. Any warrior who volunteers will be fitted with human mechanical systems. Admiral Morgan, can your ships provide the necessary equipment? We can, Katie replied. But it will take time to modify everything for draconi physiology. We do not have time, Kessa said, pointing at the display. The krill will reach Skytier in 6 hours. Then we work fast, Jake said. He turned to the communication officers. Send out a call for volunteers. Tell them their queen needs warriors willing to try something new. Tell them a human will lead them. Over the next 5 hours, Jake barely slept. He worked with human engineers and draconi technicians to adapt mechanical wing systems for 300 volunteers. The warriors who stepped forward were not the Empire's finest. They were the desperate, the grounded, those who would rather die fighting than watch their world fall. Jake fitted each warrior himself, explaining how the systems worked, how to think about movement differently. He taught them in minutes what had taken him years to learn. It was not enough, but it would have to be. When the krill fleet arrived, they expected easy prey. What they found instead was something they had never seen before. Draconi warriors flying with mechanical wings, supported by human ships providing covering fire. Jake led the first strike himself. His squadron of newly equipped warriors followed him into the enemy formation. They were awkward at first, some wobbling in flight, others moving too slowly. But they adapted quickly. Draconi instincts combined with mechanical systems created a strange but effective fighting style. The battle raged for hours. The krill tried to infect the mechanical systems, but found them resistant. Human engineers had built redundancies and isolated systems that the biological weapon could not easily spread through. When one part failed, another took over. Jake flew through the chaos, coordinating attacks, calling out enemy positions, using his human mind to find patterns in the krill fleet movements. He saw that they relied on their infection weapon too heavily. When that failed, their tactics became predictable. All squadrons, focus on their command ship, Jake ordered. The smaller vessels follow its lead. Cut off the head. The joint force concentrated their fire. Draconi warriors using mechanical wings proved just as fierce as they had been with neural enhancements. They were slower, yes, but their natural strength and combat training more than compensated. The human ships provided long-range support, while the Draconi engaged in close combat. The krill command ship broke apart under the combined assault. Without its guidance, the rest of the fleet scattered. The Draconi and human forces pursued, driving them out of the system. When Jake finally landed back on Skytier, exhausted and wounded, Vera was waiting. She embraced him in front of the entire command staff, something she had never done publicly before. "You saved us," she said simply. "We saved each other," Jake replied. "That is what family does." That night, Queen Vera made an announcement that shocked the Empire. She declared Jake her chosen heir, the next to rule when she stepped down. The human who had arrived as a helpless infant would one day lead the Draconi Empire. 5 years after the Krill invasion, the Draconi Empire had transformed. The integration of human technology with Draconi tradition had created something stronger than either alone. Jake, now 26, stood in the council chamber wearing the formal robes of a crown prince. The title still felt strange to him. Outside the chamber windows, the sky was filled with both natural and mechanical flyers. The shame of using mechanical wings had disappeared. Now they were seen as symbols of adaptability, of the Empire's willingness to evolve. Young Draconi studied both traditional flight and mechanical systems, understanding that true strength came from having multiple options. The integration has been successful beyond our expectations, Council Member Myra reported. She was an older Draconi who had opposed Jake's entry into the Sky Trials years ago. Now she was one of his strongest supporters. 7 new colonies have requested mechanical flight training. The humans have sent technical advisors to help. Jake listened to the reports, but noticed something troubling. Several conservative council members were absent from the meeting. These were Draconi, who still believed the Empire had lost its way by embracing human methods. They spoke quietly of tradition and purity, gathering support among those who feared change. After the meeting, Kessa pulled Jake aside. She had been promoted to Sky Marshal, commanding all aerial forces in the Empire. Her silver scales now carried ceremonial markings of her rank. "I have been hearing rumors," she said quietly. "There is a movement among the old families. They call themselves the Pure Wing Faction. They believe Vera's decision to name you heir is a betrayal of everything the Empire stands for." "How serious is the threat?" Jake asked. "Serious enough that I assigned extra guards to the Queen. She is getting older, Jake. She is not as strong as she once was." Jake felt a chill run through him. Vera was over 220 years old now, ancient even by Draconi standards. She still ruled with wisdom, but her body was showing the weight of time. Her flights were shorter, her movements slower. "I will talk to her," Jake said. That evening, Jake found Vera on her private balcony, the same place where she had held him as an infant and promised to teach him to fly. She was watching the sunset, her golden scales dimmed by age but still beautiful. "You are worried about the Pure Wing Faction," she said without turning around. Even now, she seemed to know what he was thinking before he spoke. "They could be dangerous," Jake replied, standing beside her. "They are frightened," Vera corrected. "Change is frightening, especially to those who have lived their entire lives believing their way is the only way. But the universe does not care about our comfort. It demands that we adapt or die." She turned to look at him, and Jake saw how tired she was. "It is time, Jake. I have ruled for too long. The Empire needs young strength now." "Your strength. I am not ready," Jake said honestly. "No one ever is," Vera replied with something like amusement in her voice. "I certainly was not when I took the throne. But you have proven yourself 100 times over. The people respect you. The military trusts you. And you carry something precious. The ability to see beyond what we have always done to what we could do." Before Jake could respond, alarms sounded throughout the palace. Guards rushed onto the balcony, surrounding them. Kessa arrived moments later, her expression grim. "Assassins," she reported. "They got past the outer defenses. 3 members of the Pure Wing Faction. The attack had been planned carefully. The assassins knew the palace layout and had inside help. They fought their way to the throne room, where Vera had gone to address the emergency. Jake arrived just as one of the assassins raised a weapon aimed at the Queen. He did not think. He moved on pure instinct, the same instinct he had developed over 18 years of training. Jake threw himself between Vera and the weapon. The blast caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around and dropping him to the floor. The pain was immediate and terrible. But through it, Jake saw Kessa and the guards take down the assassins. He saw Vera standing over him, her old eyes filled with fear for the first time he could remember. "Foolish child," she said, her voice breaking. "You could have been killed." "That is what family does," Jake replied, echoing the words he had spoken years ago. "We save each other." The wound took weeks to heal. During that time, the Pure Wing conspiracy was uncovered completely. It went deeper than anyone expected, involving dozens of prominent families. But when the trials were held, Jake argued for mercy. He spoke of how the Empire's strength came from unity, not from purging those who disagreed. "These Draconi are not traitors," he said before the full council. "They are afraid. Afraid of losing their identity, afraid that embracing human ways means abandoning Draconi traditions. We must show them that both can exist together." The conspirators were given reduced sentences in exchange for public pledges of loyalty. It was a controversial decision, but it worked. The opposition to Jake's succession weakened as even his enemies saw that he valued Draconi culture and traditions. Still, some doubts remained. To silence them forever, Laura announced that Jake would undertake the ancient succession ritual. The 3-day flight. It was the oldest test of Draconi leadership. The heir must fly continuously for 3 days and 3 nights, traveling to the 4 corners of the Empire without landing. It was designed to prove absolute mastery of the sky, unbreakable endurance, and perfect navigation. Many natural-born Draconi had failed the test over the centuries. "You do not have to do this," Kessa told Jake the night before the ritual. "Your claim to the throne is already secure." "I do have to," Jake replied, checking his flight suit for the 100th time. "Not for the council. For the people. They need to see that their future king can endure what the greatest Draconi have endured." The 3-day flight began at dawn. Thousands gathered to watch Jake launch from the highest point of the palace. His route would take him north to the ice mountains, east to the ocean settlements, south to the desert outposts, and west to the forest territories before returning home. All without landing, without stopping, without rest. The first day was manageable. Jake had trained for this, pushing his endurance to the limits. He followed the traditional route, stopping at each checkpoint just long enough to be verified by the local authorities. The second day tested him harder. Exhaustion began to set in. His muscles ached from holding position in the flight suit. His eyes burned from the constant wind. But he pushed on, drinking water from the supply tubes built into his suit, eating the nutrient paste that provided energy. The 3rd day was agony. Jake's body screamed at him to land, to rest, to stop. Hallucinations crept in at the edges of his vision. He saw his birth parents, whom he had never known. He saw Vera as she had been when he was young. Saw Vera as she had been when he was young. He saw all the people who had doubted him over the years, but he also saw those who had believed in him. Kessa, flying alongside him when she could. Rin, the stern teacher who had never given up on him. Admiral Katie Morgan and the human crews who had helped save the Empire. And Vera, always Vera, who had taken a helpless infant and seen in him the future of her people. When Jake finally landed back at the palace after 72 hours in the air, he collapsed immediately. Medics rushed to help him, but he waved them away long enough to stand before Vera and the assembled crowd. "I have completed the 3-day flight," he said, his voice hoarse but clear. "I claim the right of succession." The crowd erupted in cheers. Even the most traditional Draconi could not deny what they had witnessed. A human, flying on mechanical wings, had matched the endurance of the greatest Draconi warriors in history. The coronation ceremony was held 1 month later. Representatives from dozens of species attended, including a large human delegation led by Admiral Katie Morgan. The ceremony itself blended Draconi tradition with human elements, symbolizing the new era Jake represented. When Vera placed the crown on his head, she spoke the ancient words that had been used for 1,000 years. "The sky recognizes you. The wind accepts you. The empire follows you. Then she added something new, something no dragon queen had ever said before. And the stars embrace you, for you are a child of both earth and sky. Rule wisely, Sky King Jake. Jake's first act as ruler was to establish the United Sky Accord, a formal alliance between humanity and the Draconi Empire. The agreement promised mutual defense, shared technology, and cultural exchange. Other species soon asked to join, seeing the strength in what the two civilizations had built together. On the evening after his coronation, Jake stood on the balcony where this had all begun. Vera joined him, no longer queen but still his mother in every way that mattered. "Do you ever regret the path you chose?" Jake asked her. Taking in a human infant must have seemed like madness. "Every day I wonder what might have been different," Vera admitted. "But I have no regrets. You have given our empire something we desperately needed. Proof that strength comes in many forms. That tradition and innovation can coexist. That the sky is big enough for everyone who has the courage to reach for it." She looked at him with pride. "I raised you to rule the skies, little one. Now show the galaxy what a human with dragon wings can achieve." Jake looked out at the city below, at the mixed flocks of natural and mechanical flyers sharing the same sky. He thought about the journey that had brought him here,